What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, finishing my deep dive into Frank Zappa's Winter 1977 tour. I just listened to all 19 available bootlegs, audience tapes, soundboard tapes that are circulating out there in the tape trading internet world. Most of them, if not all of them, you can find on YouTube. So if you're interested, search and you'll find them. What I'm going to do now that I've finished this tour is I'm going to give like an overview of the entire tour, and I'm going to, as we go on, rank the tours because I love to rank stuff. When I originally ranked this tour years ago, when I first started this channel, I had this tour at number 22. And number 20, which I think is far too low. At 23, I had the Spring-Summer 1980 tour. I think this is definitely better than that tour. Guitar playing was fantastic. A lot of the same songs, hearing them over and over every night, night after night. There were a lot of You Are What You Is stuff that was in its like early development. And so Steve Vai hadn't dropped in yet to like add that extra oomph. So it was some rough listen to hear these songs over and over. That would be that. So I had that at 23. And at 21, I had Winter 76, the FZ Aussie tour. I'm thinking this is a better tour than that. I'm now going to deep dive into Winter 76. I was planning to do an 80s tour, but I'm now going to go down this line and try to like figure out exactly the ranking, my ranking of these tours. So I will be listening to Winter 76 next to see if this one truly is better than that or if this is recency bias. But one last time, since I just spent months listening to every show, I'd like to spend some time discussing this tour because it is a good tour. I've come up with a internet-friendly, as Jenny Nicholson likes to say, an internet-friendly list of 10 things I want to talk about, and then I will be done with this tour. But anyways, let's get on with it. Number 1, the band. Good band, small band. I like the small band. We got Frank, of course. We have Ray White appearing for the first time on the previous Fall 76 tour. This is sort of a continuation of that tour. He would be gone after this and not come back until the 80s. He's probably the most underused, at least in far the tapes I'm listening to. Hard to hear his rhythm guitar. Doesn't get to sing as much as you would want Ray to sing, but Ray's there. You got Eddie Jobson on his second full tour. He also started in Fall 76 with Ray. Excellent. His synth sounds are great. His keyboard sounds are great. His violin solos and Black Napkins are highlights of every single show. Valuable contributor to this tour. Jobson is fantastic. And then you have the rhythm section, which first appeared on the previous tour, the Fall 76 tour, would stick around until the end of Winter 78. Patrick O'Hearn on bass, Terry Bozzio on drums. I think one thing is true. Bozzio is the least funky drummer Frank has ever had. One of his best, undeniably great, not very funky. They did Montana a couple times, some I'm the Slimes. Trying to be funky, I don't think Bozzio is very funky. The Patrick O'Hearn-Bozzio combination, though, amazing. The way they sort of like let solos sort of slowly build and that they stay sparse and give Frank lots of room early, and then as Frank's intensity builds, their intensity builds, they kind of do it like nobody else. Just absolutely fantastic rhythm section. So the band is fantastic, absolutely amazing. And because you still get a lot of Frank in songs and not just in solos. Eventually Frank just only plays solos. When we get to like the 80s, it appears. And if he does play in a song, it's pretty rare. You get a lot of Frank rhythm in a lot of these, a lot of little licks in places like early Broken Hearts. Sometimes he'll drop a little solo, or he's soloing a lot more and trying to grow chin. So Frank's a little more active than he would be later on, so that's kind of cool. But the band is fantastic. Number 2, the set list. We pretty much had the exact same set list every single night, and that is what it looked like right there. Purple Lagoon, you'd get the intro. Sometimes Frank would drop a solo in there. Peaches sounds great. Torture, Big Leg Emma. I'm the Slime early on. That eventually got taken over by City of Tiny Lights. There is a show in which they both get played. Pound for a Brown, Jones Crusher, My Guitar, Tryin', Broken Hearts. Dong Work is an a cappella version. Manx, Titties, and Black Napkins usually ended the main set. Then the encores were usually Dynamo Hum, Camarillo Brillo, and Muffin Man. You get some bonus songs that were thrown in throughout the tour. I'm going to talk about those in a couple minutes. But this is what every show sounded like. And I will say this, is just having listened to all 19 shows, I was pretty engaged until we reached that sort of Broken Hearts, Dong Work, Manx, titties section, that was when I kind of checked out for the first time in some of these shows. A lot of it was because the sound was bad, and Broken Hearts is so lyric vocally heavy that a lot of times if you have a really bad sounding thing, that's the things you lose first, or the vocals. The guitar usually comes through. So those songs in particular, the Broken, the Dong, the Titties, were just frustrating listens. But I also think Broken Hearts Are for Assholes, just, it went on way too long. Dong Work for You to as an a cappella thing, I don't know, it didn't work for me. Manx is almost like, oh, this is what this band is capable of. Why aren't we doing this? And as great as that was, it was almost like a frustrating minute and a half. Like, why aren't we doing more of this stuff? And then Titties got really, really good like the last couple weeks of the tour. Before that, it seemed pretty short and like they weren't into it. They really got into it by the end of the tour, so that was cool. But that was always kind of like, all right, this is a rough patch until we hit Black Napkins. But I really enjoyed everything else, and there were some it was really good. It did not bother me that it was the same set list over and over again, so I cannot fault that. Dynamo Hum in the encore was always too long. Frank really got into the audience participation. He could have like toned that down a little bit. You could tell he was really excited, that the audience was really excited to do it. And then the Camarillo Muffin. And Muffin towards the end of the tour just got crazy, so there was some good Muffin stuff. So that is the set list. Again, there were 6 like random treats that were thrown in throughout the tour. I'm going to get to those in a couple minutes. First time songs. What were the debut songs on this tour? So we did get our, the debut songs. We get our very first Jones Crusher. It debuted on this tour. Quite a different arrangement than we would get by the time Adrian Belew arrived on the following tour. Nice little synth keyboard part that pops in. A little more of a Captain Beefheart bluesy version that's pretty fun. We get our very first Broken Hearts Are for Assholes. The ending is way too long. Just too long. Yeah, too long. And then by the end of the tour, he adds this little poop shoot. You don't know what you got to Little Deuce Coupe that I just got tired of. This is our first Dong Work for Yuta on this tour, the a cappella version, when it reappears. I know it reappears in Winter 78. I don't know if it reappears in Fall 77. I can't remember. But there's instrumentation. It's a little more funky, a little more little dancey. And then I think that was it. Those were the 3 things that debuted on this tour. I'm pretty sure those were the only ones. And then we do get our very last Manx Needs Women. After this tour, it would never be heard from again. So those were the first time songs. We now have monster songs. So when I started reviewing tours back in like the late 90s, I referred to certain songs as monster songs, named after King Kong, because there were songs that had the potential to really, almost anything could happen on any given night, and not something didn't always happen on any given night, but potential was there. Pound for a Brown eventually becomes a monster song. Over its career, it is defined as a monster, but this is not a very monster version of it. It has a guitar solo, a drum solo, same every night. Epic guitar solos, absolutely fantastic. But the monster aspect was that not there. Black Napkins has a couple monster versions, performances in its sort of history, but this is definitely not a monster version. Usually get Frank's, early on, you got a Frank solo, a Jobson solo, Frank solo, then eventually we dropped the Frank solo. I think we got a Ray White solo during one of the shows. So there's monster potential in Black Napkins, but it doesn't really become a monster song. So this was kind of a little bit devoid of monster songs, but that's okay. Number 5, Frank's guitar solos. So how often did Frank drop a guitar solo in this tour? He would sometimes drop licks in Purple Lagoon, so that was pretty cool. Torture Never Stops, always an epic solo, fantastic, amazing, just a highlight of every show. We got guitar solos in I'm the Slime when that appeared early on. City of Tiny Lights, we do not have a Frank guitar solo. Pound for a Brown, epic guitar solos, maybe the MVP for the tour. That will be number 10 on this list, with the MVP. Now, Jones Crusher, My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama, late in the tour with about 2 weeks left, maybe even a little more than that, Frank starts dropping these guitar solos after Jones Crusher, right before My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama. That went off and I turned it back on, sorry for the brightness. You can hear an example of this on Duck Duck Goose / Leather Goods on the Leather release, on Leather or on the CD release. Excellent guitar solos. It's usually Frank by himself. Sometimes the band would join in, some psyche effects. Really good stuff. And then we did not get another guitar solo after that until Black Napkins. Fantastic. And then Muffin Man, we usually get a guitar solo. So those were the guitar solos we could rely on every night, with Torture, Pound for a Brown, and Black Napkins being usually pretty epic must-hears. 6, the big ones. The big ones for this show are those 3 guitar solo spots. Torture Never Stops. Very much a big... How long are we talking? We're talking pretty long, 12, 13-minute versions of the Torture Never Stops, depending on how long the solo is. A really big early moment. Pound for a Brown, 10 plus minutes. Really big early moment, mainly because that guitar solo is so epic. And then the next big moment is Black Napkins. Epic Eddie Jobson solo. Epic Frank solo. Just huge. Sometimes these would be 15, 20-minute Black Napkins. Absolutely amazing. Those were, without a doubt, the big moments on any given night. Number 7, right? We're on number 7. The special treats. So we did get 6. I can count them on 2 hands. 6 special treats. Montana early on, awesome. They were kind of trying to bring the funk. These would be the last Montana solos, and until a random week in December of '84. Every other Montana after this, no matter when it was played, would not have a guitar solo. Cruising for Burgers, essentially the same arrangement as on Zappa in New York. Epic solos, sometimes better than others, but a couple pretty epic solos, maybe one routine. One that was kind of chill, surprisingly more of a Pound for a Brown vibe, but it worked. Got a Willie the Pimp, quite a lot. I think we got 5 Cruisin' and 5 Willie the Pimps. The Willie the Pimp, unfortunately, is the fast version, the arrangement from '84. One, I think, pretty monstrous epic solo. The other ones were just kind of rock, yeah, Willie the Pimp type vibes. Honey, Don't You Want a Man Like Me Once, which was just, all right, that happened. Illinois Enema Bandit, Once, amazing, great guitar playing. I think a couple solos in there, absolutely fantastic. And then we get the Jones Crusher into My Guitar. Frank Zappa Jam was a special treat that popped up a number of times towards the latter end of the tour. The special treats were cool. I really wish, other than Honey, Don't You Want a Man Like Me, I wish we had heard them more often, to be honest. It would have been awesome had Frank started that guitar jam after Jones Crusher early in the tour to see how it would have developed if it had, a couple more weeks to build. As it is, it's still a pretty special moment. But those were the special treats. Number 8, Platonic Ideals. So I have this whole theory or this belief, or I don't know what you want to call it, that certain songs reach their platonic ideal during certain tours. My first example I always go to, The Torture Never Stops. Kind of changes on every tour. Gets a little weight, gets a little Chattanooga choo-choo, gets a crazy talk, speak, whatever. That changes a lot. Listen to the '88 version of Torture Never Stops compared to the '76 version. Entirely different beast for the most part. But I think every one of these songs that has this sort of journey has one tour where it's reached its platonic ideal. I'm not sure anything on this tour has reached its platonic ideal. Torture Never Stops, not going to reach that till winter '78. I'm the Slime, that was kind of in '73 or '74, I think, where that reached its peak. City Tiny Lights, that's a harder one, but I don't think it's there yet. Jones Crusher, no, I think the Baloo version, even though as interesting as this is, I think the Baloo version is better. This might be the platonic ideal for My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama. Screaming guitar solo, kind of bluesy and rough. This might be the ultimate version of this. Trying Never Changes, Broken Hearts Don't Make. Black Napkins. Black Napkins is a hard one. This might be like, it doesn't really ever change, but the Eddie Jobson, Frank Zappa pairing the violin and the guitar might, like, what Jobson brings on a just a creative technical level to his guitar solo might be responsible for the inspiration that produced some of Frank's best Black Napkin solo. So maybe just this pairing of Jobson and Frank is responsible for this being the Platonic Ideal. Part of me also thinks the Platonic Ideal might be the 88 version of this song, because hearing Black Napkins with the full horn section is kind of straight up magical. But that's one that doesn't really change much, but we're close there. Dynamo, Camarillo, Muffin, none of that. But then when we get to the special treats, Cruising for Burgers. This might be the Platonic Ideal for Cruising and Burgers. It's got the Hawaiian march chant or whatever that is that Frank quotes most of the time in the solo. It's the rock version. Yeah, we don't have the vocals, but maybe this song without vocals is the Platonic Ideal. It's got that epic guitar solo. This might be the Platonic Ideal for that song. Everything else, no. But yeah, not every song has a Platonic Ideal. Like Trying to Grow Chin is always just Trying to Grow Chin. Bozio versions are probably the best, but whatever. Anyways, so yeah, not really anything where I think you have to hear this version, except maybe the My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama. That's why we need this release, so we get that. Number 9, The Forest or a Tree. So this is sort of a spectrum question. To fully understand this tour, on the spectrum of listening to a single tree, which is one show, versus you need to hear the entire show, how many shows do you need to listen to have an understanding of what this tour is about? And on this spectrum, we are much closer to a single tree than we are to a forest. If there was going to be an official release, a Road Tapes, Volume 4, a Winter 77 tour, one show, I think that could be enough to represent this entire tour. I have 2 recommendations. The final show of the tour, which is just the guitar playing, is epic. You don't really get any rare treats. I think there's a Willie the Pimp that pops up. But it's the set list we've been talking about with just played at its best. The jam between Jones Crusher and My Guitar Wants My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama is the one, Leather Goods, where you get the Dazed and Confused, you get the Whole Lot of Love. Absolutely amazing. The Muffin Man just blows the roof off the sucker. A tour-ending Muffin Man for sure. The other one would be the 2 February 3rd show, which had the Honey Don't You Want a Man, the Illinois Anima Bandit, otherwise a pretty typical set. Another absolutely fantastic show. If one of those were to be released and that was the only thing we had from this tour, I think you get a really good sense of what this tour brings. I don't think you need multiple shows to have a fully appreciation for like the quality of what is being brought here. Because really, night after night after night after night, the Torture solo, the Brown solo, the Black Napkin solo, those things are delivering. And this band is fantastic. So I really think ideally like a 3 CD set that I think you could fit 2 shows probably on 3 CDs. There were some longer shows. Maybe you would need 4 CDs. But release a couple shows and fill it out with other stuff that you have on tape. That's all you need. Finally, number 10, the MVP. What, who, where, why is the MVP of this tour? And as I was going through the shows, it was obvious early on that I think it was going to be Black Napkins. The Jobson solo is fantastic. The Frank Zappa solo is fantastic. I think Ray gets a really good solo at one point early in the tour. The arrival of the song after Titties and Beer always just felt epic, just felt important, just felt like, all right, we survived through this segment of the show. Now we've arrived at the mountain. But then as the tour went on, the Pound for a Brown solos got really good and were a little more experimental and a little more playful and didn't seem interested in like building to any sort of climactic peak as much. It was like Frank's like, I got 5 minutes in the middle of the show to do what I want. And the rhythm section kept up with him. But then it seemed like Black Napkins was paying attention to what Pound for a Brown was doing. And so Black Napkins started up in its game. Plus you can't deny the fact that if I had a choice between an Eddie Jobson solo night after night or a Terry Bozzio drum solo night after night, probably going with that Jobson solo. So that helped Black Napkins sort of like, some Black Napkins, when they started, you felt like, okay, it was going to be kind of chill. Some Black Napkins, you're like, oh no, this is full on monstrous. Frank's solos, We had pink napkins came from this. We had a couple that were like hot pink napkins. We had a couple that didn't go anywhere near a pink napkins vibe. We had some that were just straight up exhilarating rock and roll. We had some that were like pink and then intense. Then we dropped down and then we got intense again. Black napkins, it wants to be, sorry, that screen keeps going off. Black napkins fought for the MVP at the end, and it was close. But the MVP of this tour, and there needs to be a box set with every single solo from this tour of this song, if not of every single solo ever played that is available. That's the MVP right there. Giving it to Black Napkins. You won this, Black Napkins. I mean, you're one of my all-time favorite Frank songs. You delivered. The pound is fantastic, but everything about your appearance in this show, you are the winner. So that's it. Those are my 10 things I want to talk about this tour. Currently ranked at number 22. We'll see if it jumps up to 21. We're going to go one at a time. Is it going to stay at 22 and Winter 76 is 21, or are we going to get a skip? We'll find out. Thanks for watching. Leave your thoughts on this. Oh, and here's my ranking of the shows one last time so you can see what that looks like. They're all available pretty much on YouTube. Find them, listen to them. Start at the top and go down, right? Sound quality isn't always great. And sometimes when you get to the bottom of the list, some of those are there because the sound quality is just really bad, regardless of the quality of the music. And you just can't differentiate the two because it's just so bad. But for the most part, yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. That's all I got. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do all those things. And I'll see you on a Winter 76 video, people. Peace. Talk to you later.